just realized I added up my years, and it was 24 years now associated with Hickory Chair. Laura Holland is our Vice President of Marketing for Hickory Chair, and she has been with our company, Hickory Chair, for 40 years. And that is like amazing. So she was always a lot of my go-to for many years. Suzanne Kasler is really, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You're really actually on my last bucket list of Hickory Chair designers to be able to have you here and join us.
Thank you.
And Suzanne Kasler's collection was started with Hickory Chair in 2008, and it has gone in so many beautiful dimensions, and the classic designs of what she does are just exactly what I love. And I have a lot of her pieces in my home.
Thank you.
So on that note, thank you for joining us, and again, it's an honor to have you. Actually, both, you too. Okay.
Well, we're excited to be here.
Begin.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Viv,
good.
and Emilio, and Linda, and the whole staff here at International Design Source. Hickory Chair is proud to be here with this beautiful showroom, and appreciate all of you coming out today. We ready to start?
We're ready.
Okay, so, you know, I know we're excited to hear all about Suzanne's new Bruges collection, but let's talk a bit about what makes you special, Suzanne. What makes a beautiful room?
Well, oh, that's right, we have to use the microphone.
Sharing?
Yes, it's great to be here. I'm excited, because we all love design, and it's exciting to be here, and I appreciate all of you, because I know how busy everybody is to be here. So thank you again, and we love Naples. I was here right after the storm, and I have some friends here too, so I come back here each year, but I will say that Naples is looking more beautiful than I've ever seen it. I think that whatever's happening here, I see so much change, and in a real positive way. So, as we know, the design world is busy, but what I love talking about is really a perfect room. And my new book is called Edited Style. And what I talk about with Edited is a collection of all the things that I bought and collected. And it was interesting when I did the book, a number of people said, well, the cover doesn't look, it's got my bookshelves with a lot of things on it, my family room. And I said, edited does not mean not collecting. Edit means helping ourselves and our clients go through all the things they own, find the really favorite things, and then edit. But you can still have your collections. So I kind of had to talk about that, and you'll see that in like the first chapter, how I think that creating style and design is all the memories that we have in putting collections together. So it was interesting, what I have seen in design more, and I think all of us are seeing, everyone that comes in is asking me for, we want it fresh and young, we want it more modern. And I'll say, well, what does that mean? And what we found is that it doesn't mean contemporary, always. They just want to have it not be as over-decorated. So I think that's happening a lot in design today, and that's one thing that I talk about with my signature style has always kind of been the mixture of how you put a room together. The other thing I talk a lot about is if I can get the architecture right, an architectural envelope, it's less decorating. So whenever when all of us that work in design today, we are really creating a lifestyle. So it's not just about decorating. It's about how they're going to live in the room, and it really is about the space and the architecture.
Thank you, Suzanne. So you have published 4 beautiful inspirational books, and I know there's some here today for after the panel. But you've also created licensed collections, not only for Hickory Chair, but with Visual Comfort and Ballard Designs, La Cornue, and Lee Joffa. So why would you want to put your name out there that way?
Well, what started happening for me early in my career, as all of us, we go shopping a lot. I think being a designer, you have to love shopping. And I will say we can shop anywhere. So it can be high and low. So I would be sending things and buying things, and they'd come in, and I did not want to sell them. Because I would find an unusual antique piece. Even one time, I went to Amagansett, and there was a tumbleweed light fixture. Actually, it was really a tumbleweed with a light bulb. But I bought it, and it was interesting because I bought it, and then it came to the office, and it sits, everybody opens it in in my little front room. I have kind of a big front room. And by the way, I have 13 designers, so, 13 people on my team. 6 of them are designers. So when we open the tumbleweed, and this happens with a lot of the things I buy, I can't believe you bought this. This is a light bulb with it's really a tumbleweed with a light bulb. And I said, okay, so then we took it to Hickory Chair showroom, and we got more comments. People came by because what we love as designers is finding things that kind of have memories or to people, or texture or interest. And then I ended up, I think, having hung in my daughter's apartment in Nashville for many years. I was thinking, where is that now? Someone probably snuck it home. But I think that what happened for me is I would find like this perfect, unusual antique, mostly, or a vintage piece. And I still do, and I couldn't find it again. And so I really have always wanted to do product design. So early on, I was very inspired by Barbara Berry. She was really one of the first people that really did product design in a way that translated it to all where we all could buy it. Because when she did her collection with Baker, I think was her first collection. So I decided to start looking for her agent, because I realized it is really hard if you're not in LA or New York, and I live in Atlanta. And it is all about LA and New York in the design world, really, because they are kind of always, all the magazines and all the publications are there. Luckily, in the South, we had Southern Accents and Veranda magazine in the South. So I was starting to get published, and it was getting to be more national. So I called up I found the name of the agent. When I called him, he first turned me down at least 3 times. Even though now, after many years, I'm one of his most successful of the clients. Because what I realized is I love designing things that designers can make their own. I designed things, and the reason I wanted to go to Hickory Chair, I love collaboration. I didn't want to manufacture, certainly myself, but I can do my end table in, 8 finishes. I might show it, Hickory Chair allowed me to bring the white paint in as a standard finish. Right now, we're seeing a lot more brown furniture. So they've let me, for this new collection, I have 2 new, like the bleached oak look that you'll see, and then a new brown color, because just traditional brown is kind of coming back a little bit. I don't know if you've been seeing that. And so that's one of the things I love about being a designer that can do collections. And I continue to find things that people, kind of want, but I do not want to give it up. So then I make it or design it and draw it, and then that's kind of how the furniture, all my brands started. And I think that what's exciting today as a designer is all these pieces that we can make and really make them, you think of interior design, it really is a composition. It's our way of being an artist. As I said, if you get the architecture right, then you're putting the composition together, but you're looking for pieces of furniture and things that can really be comfortable and create the lifestyle, but then also they can give it the own reflecting the personality of the client.
So, just out of curiosity, who did you license with first? Was it Hickory Chair or one of the other partners?
Well, what did happen is, and I kind of talk about this with a lot of designers, the agent came into my office and we did a strategic plan. And we did make a list, and Hickory Chair was at the top. And but we made a list, you know, Hickory Chair, Lee Jofa, Visual Comfort. Those were kind of the three people, and all of those brands at the time were doing collections with other designers. Again, I liked that they had a collaborative group. And at Hickory Chair, Thomas O'Brien was the designer at the time. That was their big designer, one of their designers. Alexa Hampton was there, and Mariette Gomez as well. But Thomas called me on my way to my interview. And again, I had been getting published, and my work was being seen, and that's always a hard thing today because publishing is different than it used to be. But I always say getting published in the local magazines is really where you'll get a lot of your work, because it's really where people know you live and can start that way. So really Hickory Chair was the place that I started, and once I did have my collection started with Hickory Chair, because they are so well known and had other really great designers as part of their team, the other collections came very quickly after. And then also at the same time, for some reason, I wanted to do a book then. And it was really before a lot of people did their books. So I'm not sure why. I think sometimes it's better not to know too much, because I didn't know that other designers didn't have books really. And I went to the Rizzoli people. Well, I went to my agent and I said, I really liked to now do a book. I was getting published a lot, but I don't know if you notice when you are published, they don't always put the things in the book the way you might want it to be. And you always say, we're so excited and we're so happy to be in, but I wanted to put it in a way that I wanted to have sharing my message of my design and what was really happening in those jobs. And when I did go to Rizzoli, it was interesting because they said no one knows of you. And I said, well, maybe we could just ask them. And when we put the book thing together, at the time, my books became one of the most successful interior design books, because what we're doing is sharing a message. What I'm trying to do is inspire other people. It's my first book is called Inspired Interiors. So it's a lot going on.
So we introduced Suzanne's collection at the April 2008 market, and it was such a joy working with Suzanne and her team to figure out how to bring this beautiful new collection to market. And so it was wildly successful. And then to keep something going, you have to remain relevant. And there are a lot of collections that have come and gone in our industry that, and then they're gone. But you have had the ability to bring to Hickory Chair new ideas, new fresh ideas that have allowed us to say goodbye to the things that were no longer relevant in the marketplace, but keep your collection exciting and relevant, including the new Bruges Collection. Talk a little bit about how you've been able to accomplish this, because you do this in your practice as well.
Well, so many of us love travel, and really we can travel anywhere, even though we all know Paris might be my favorite place. And we're always inspired, I think, a lot when we get out of our own environment. But, you know, we can have that happen in New York or LA as well. But what happened for me, I have been taking these design trips every year. My agent actually has a group called the Leaders of Design, and there's another group also that I was members of, the Design Leadership. And both those groups take trips to Europe, but they're with peers. But we get to see things that you almost might not get into that really relate to interiors and architecture and style and design. So maybe about, I guess it's been 2 or 3 years ago, it's hard to, the years are going, and we went to Belgium. Now, I have always been inspired by Belgian design because my work has always had a continental feel, but a lot of the things when I first started had a more kind of French undertone. What I love about the Belgian movement is how it has changed our design world, really. And they talk about, there are 7 Belgian designers, fashion and architecture, and Dries Van Noten, Axel Vervoet are just 2 of the people in that group that have just really changed our whole world, as you know. And so on this tour, we went to Axel Vervoet's home. And it's different when you see things in a book or then you experience, and he has a castle, kind of, it's like a big home. But it's interesting because what is so great about the European aesthetic, they have, because of the architecture is so historic, it's interesting, a lot of it, they'll do a design and it looks a lot of his work looks minimal, then there'd be collections. It's kind of what I love is, strong, big, overscaled pieces, a lot of slip covers. And I saw it again, and I've always been influenced by it. And I decided that the next collection, because I had done 2 collections in the years before. One was the Paris collection, the Mouret collection, because I do love the bohemian mix of things, mixed in to fancy. And so when I was able to kind of think about my next collection, it was, I want a slip-covered sofa, but we really don't want a slip-covered sofa because we don't like how it looks a week later. But Hickory Chair did the most beautiful sofa for me that looks slip-covered. It's not here, but if you look at it, the one thing that I was able to do also with Hickory Chair, because it is made, one of the pictures early on shows me going to the factory to do work on my collections. And the guys in the factory, they are so knowledgeable. We get the muses. If I have a piece, I'll send it to them. But we made a luxury down cushion for me. What all of us want to bring is that high level of design and bring it where we can create it again and again for our clients. We want a sofa that maybe has a look that's kind of down, but we really can't do a down sofa because then they are straightening the cushions all the time like the slipcovers. So what I love about the collaboration is how we can incorporate what I call design details. And I'll say, I really want the skirt to touch the floor, and they'll let me have it touch the floor, but it's not like Rose Tarlow. When I ordered a sofa for my mom that was from Rose Tarlow, and it curled up at the bottom, and she made me take it and get it hemmed. You know how we want the design aesthetic, but we want it for, it's kind of the reality of how it can be chic and special, but not, but then we can really have it work. It's part of that creative, the lifestyle. So I don't know if that did answer your question or not. About I don't even know what the question was. As you know, all of us who love design, we really love design and can go kind of off on many directions, right?
So we were talking about Bruges and why the
that's
Belgian
right.
design.
I was in Belgium. Yes.
And,
yes.
And obviously, there's the great Axel Vervoet
Yeah.
and those influences. And so over time, as your collection has morphed to remain a leader and a fashion forward, how has your design projects morphed as well?
Well, I think one of the things about my success has been how much I dream of houses. I do have a passion for design. And because we have a really vibrant, busy design office, I always am thinking what we are missing. And one thing we're missing, and I was able to do this in my collection, I could never find any nightstands small enough because the architects are not giving us bed walls. There's always a door if we're wanting to center the bed on the wall. And I've been seeing it a lot, even if we kind of get in early, we can't. And so I worked with Hickory. I took two pieces from my existing collection, the West Paces table and the St. Clair chest, and we made them more petite, but still great sized. And then I had found the Hervé chest. It's one over in the corner here. I found a vintage chest, and we made that chest really kind of exactly like the vintage piece I found, but then I was able to make a small nightstand for it. So that's one thing that does happen when I'm working on my design projects, staying relevant in design. And then the other thing that I love to do, and I was able to get Hickory to be on board with it, I love those small petite chairs. You see them in Europe all the time. They're weirdly comfortable. When I take the muses to the factory, the big guys sit on them, and they're always surprised. But what it gives us as designers is a little chair that can be our art piece. You can put the most expensive fabric, a printed fabric, a geometric fabric, and you'll see that in my book. But I have like the Laurent chair, the Loire chair. I have the Madeline chair. I have so many chairs. I love chairs, okay? That are what we call pieces in a collection, but with those, it really gives the designer and all of us a chance to bring that style and personality in, because most of the sofas I do are cream or white.
This new collection, you started working with some materials that are new to your collections. And it's interesting, as I was listening, I was washing over, some pieces are made in mahogany and others are made in walnut and some are made in ash. But this season, working with the Hervé chest, we started working with white oak and beautiful metal work. How important are the materials to you as you design pieces?
The one thing that designers are looking for and our clients are looking for is the specialness that we can bring with our furniture pieces. And so much furniture today is made to look like things that we might find without the nuances of the details. So what we are able to do, when you bring in these wood finishes, we're really using the real white oak, and then the way we can just do the stained finishes. And even when I have found the antique pieces, or I'll find antique hardware, they will mold it and make the knobs, the little caps for the feet. Those are the differences that we can show in doing things with Hickory Chair. People may kind of see our pieces and try to make it look like that, but they're not the quality. And it's interesting, interior design today is a big investment. We are really, our clients, it's expensive. I don't know if we've all seen everything be more expensive. So one of the things that's important is we're not buying it again and again. Instead of buying the table 3 times, let's just spend the money and buy the one table and make it the right table. And I think that's important for us as designers, but what you need is to have the behind-the-scenes companies that are really reinforcing that. And that's the one thing that I love about Hickory. So we did this beautiful white oak finish, because as you know, a lot of the lighter woods are also resonating. It's this kind of, and yet we're not doing a beach house. We want the lighter oak finishes in our houses that are not just at the beach. And how do you make that a sophisticated finish and work with the other things that might be painted white or stained dark? And what we're all seeing also with the metals and the finishes in wood, I don't know if you're all seeing it, is a mixture. I mix a lot of the finishes in a room. It's not just always one note. Except for the bedroom, I now know why they did bedroom sets. I finally decided. I really did. Because I used to think, well, I'm not gonna, we're just not gonna do that. the bed matches everything. But now I say to my designers, if you're doing the bed in Swedish white, do the nightstand in Swedish white, do all the things in Swedish white. Or if we're doing it in the dark, but I do laugh about that because I actually have come back around on the bedroom things, having the finishes kind of more relate. Because I think there's so much interest in architecture, decorating, wallpaper, of course, everybody knows, and the fabrics. Sometimes the furniture really is just the anchor of making the lifestyle, but we kind of have to have it be, kind of undertoned.
So, obviously, Hickory Chair makes wood products and upholstery, and we see upholstery that looks similar every price point. What is it that you really love about upholstery? And I'll just say, in Hickory Chair's upholstery, but to you, what are those things that you look for in upholstery for your clients?
Well, again, the biggest difference with working with a company, when I go to the factory at Hickory, it really is the internal construction. And we're seeing, again, people are inspired by so many things, and there's a lot of, just like fast fashion, and there is certainly a place for that. But for us as designers, they're really looking for us to do things that are kind of long-term. And what you really want is that sofa that you just keep reupholstering. And maybe it has 2 cushions on it this year, or next year 1, or in 5 years 3. And that's what I think. We look at our upholstery pieces, it really makes a difference with the comfort. And when we are working on our new collections, we go to the factory and really sit. How is it pitched? How is it sitting? I did bring to Hickory deeper sofas. It was kind of a challenge at first because they said they would be too deep. And I said, well, designers like to have pillows on the sofa. And then the kids will take off all the pillows and lay on the sofa. So it's interesting how, as a designer, always thinking about what we're wanting in upholstery that keeps it updated, at the same time kind of really timeless. And as you know, sectionals are back on every house, and it's so interesting because years ago we used them, then they went away, and now every house. And I finally would say, you cannot put a sectional here. We're almost like, you cannot put one in every room. And they're all saying, well, we all want to lay, like they want the sectional that's a U. I said, that is, maybe we can't, we're not going to do that, but we will do it in the lower level. But what we have found in one of my pictures, when I did the Kips Bay Show House in Palm Beach, I took my Lorraine sofa, but of course, as a designer, I took the arms off, the one end. You'll see it coming up, and then I stopped the arm. So you see, it makes an ottoman look at the end. The other one doesn't have an arm. That's the nice thing about working with someone also, like people that you really can go to the factory or call them. You really can make it your own. And as a designer, we always want that. You can see here's the factory. And so I think that's what's exciting. And this table is one of my favorite, the Dalton, and that was from my trip to Africa. It's kind of that French modern. So I do think, as we all are, inspired by everything we see. That's Axel Vervoud's house. A castle.
We brought with us today these little booklets, and if you haven't picked up one, we hope you will. But this is the new Bruges Collection, and there are scenes here where we've mixed in some of the existing pieces, but it's primarily the new collection, so you're welcome to take these with you. So Suzanne, what else would you like to share with our friends here in Naples today?
Well, I see and talk to a lot of designers, and I think what I love to share is the design is in an exciting time and a challenging time. And one of the things that I see is so positive is social media and then the challenge is social media. And so what we're having happen is a lot of us are getting a lot of pushback, more than we've ever experienced before. And I talked to a lot of designers. I've been doing this a long time, young designers that have been doing this a long time. And the social media part of the world, and everyone loves design today. So the clients that are hiring designers, they have a lot of thoughts. And we do love to get their Pinterest page, but we have to remind them it is about the edit. It's too overwhelming. There's too many choices. And what happens, I even find, and we've been doing this a long time, is how we have the client trust us and get past their excitement for being involved with letting us get decisions made. And we see this. I'm working on another house with the client. I've done there now 3 houses, because a lot of times we get repeat business. And it's interesting, I'm like, why are we, questioning all this again? But I think that's what's happened for interior designers today. As you know, it's a big investment, it's expensive, and that's why I named my last book Edited Style. We really have such value to bring to our clients. They're lucky to have a designer, and it's a big investment for them, and we have to be sure that we keep that at the forefront, because it is really a challenge today, with everybody seeing everything. And it diminishes sometimes the specialness. It is interesting, I have some clients in this one area in Palm Beach, and they'll say, well, we don't want anything to look like the other person's house. And I'll say, well, we do still have to have a sofa. It may be a different sofa. But it's so interesting that social media has made people feel like, here they're spending a lot of money, how do we make it unique? So I think that today is a challenge. The exciting thing is I do tell my designers, people that hire designers love design, or they would just not hire a designer. So to me, that's kind of what's happening today in the design world. But I'm happy to open up the room for any thoughts or questions that you guys might have with the design world.
I have a little question. It seems like sofas are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And, just like they used to be, they're 8, 40 and some scale. And I think sometimes especially men, like kind of leaning back like that. And do you think this is here to stay? I mean, I know everything's cyclical, but what is your feeling about all the short?
I would say that typically the sofa height is 34 or 35. And the reason is those kind of sofas that were so tall, like I still will tell you that I love the Saladino sofa that almost looks like you're dividing the room if they're really, really tall. And I was inspired even by his sofa, but when you really think about designing a sofa, the way people live today, the rooms are sequencing and interacting differently. And before, you really had separate rooms, and people really wanted that division. You remember that Knoll sofa that has the big back that's really tall, that can never get those arms that kind of go off to the side. And so I think that changed everything with the rules of the sofas. But it is interesting. We had a client in Palm Beach, and she wanted to use the Italian sofas. And we're like, okay, well, because one of the rooms. So we go to the showroom in New York, and even me, I am not tall, we're like laying on the floor, and we can't get up out of the sofa. They are so low.
Mm-hmm.
So this European influence certainly impacted some of that. But I think it's the way the rooms and the whole way people are living today. Today we're wanting to live inside, outside. We're living from one room to the next. And I think it changed the scale. Because I personally have used the taller Saladino sofa that's really tall. You'll see it in some of our projects. but I never could find one. It's not like you use it very much. You can custom make a sofa. You can make it taller.
Yeah. Next, yes.
How'd you get your start in design?
I went to the University of Cincinnati Interior Architecture and Design School. And I did start my business in commercial design. And I will tell you that's a great place to start. Because so much today is, when I talk about creating a lifestyle or how you live, space planning is a big part of what we are doing as designers. And a lot of times, the architects are depending on us to help them. They're always worried about the massing, the roof. We're thinking, how do we get from the garage to the mudroom to the kitchen? And one of the things, so my background in space planning and design and interior architecture really has ended up being a huge positive. What happened for me, I started in Indianapolis, Indiana. Cincinnati Design School is not far, 2 hours away. But my husband, who worked for Steelcase, the office furniture company, he got transferred to Atlanta. We had our daughter who was 2. I cried for 2 years. And then we decided that moving to Atlanta was all about me, because the South loves their homes. And I had done commercial, and if any of you do commercial design, they always want you to do one of their houses. And so what I started noticing, I really like doing the houses more. I like the antiques. I like the art. I like the personal relationships, even though sometimes they can be challenging. We are all psychologists. But so when I moved to Atlanta, I decided just to do high-end residential. And I think one of the things that's important as a designer, today there's so many ways you can have your design business evolve, but there's certainly, it's interesting that design is such a big business today. And in Atlanta, there's so many talented architects and designers, but really almost in every city. And when I left Indiana, design was not a big focus in that Midwest at the time. But now, because of social media, I think it is everywhere.
Yes.
How do you see the design differences between different parts of the country? Between, like, California, Florida is very different than Atlanta, and the state of Northeast as well.
Well, one thing that, in one of my books, I call it a sense of place. And I don't know, as a designer, let's see, this last month, I have been in Aspen, in Palm Beach, Atlanta, and Cincinnati. And what I love is how, and I think that's why our clients are doing all these houses, because you do want to reflect where you are. And there's a way to do that and still create a timeless classic home, but I always try to have it be indigenous to the location. I will say, to my feeling, LA, I think, had the biggest influence on American design to me, because it is that lifestyle of living inside and out. And years ago, when I was a young designer, LA was my favorite place to go for inspiration. They have a casualness, a way of living. They will mix in a vintage antique and then have a really expensive furniture and art or rugs. And I just think that, for me, I think that was kind of a big influence that kind of seemed to translate a lot today in design. One thing we're seeing, that the South, when I did move to the South, by the way, I did about, I was like, oh my goodness, because I had not even used drapery, because in Indiana at the time, only people used shutters. I mean, it was like, and in the South, it was, 25 years ago or more, and everyone had those big drapes, like Scarlett O'Hara, I'm not kidding. And I said, I really don't think I can do design here, because I brought my sense of a modern sensibility and the lifestyle, and I did start doing beautiful drapes, but really edited, and that was really how I started my signature style years ago. But I think today, things are more merged. Just like we were kind of saying, if you go almost to any city, it used to be you'd have such a special area, but now there's so much of the same. But I do think, you know, when you go to Nantucket, we still love Navy and all those voting things. When we go to New Orleans, the house in my book, my client wanted Christian Liège, the French designer. We did a lot modern, but I insisted on all these French antiques and French fireplaces. When we go to Cincinnati, we're doing a country English farmhouse, but they still want, I think there's a merging of styles, but I think you can still be indigenous without it being now too much. And I think that's what's happened to design today, because we see things everywhere. And that's what I said when I went to Axel, we were inspired by something in Europe. Maybe we're not gonna live like they live, but we're inspired to, how do we incorporate that into our design?
How do you see that AI has affected the interior design world, and how has it affected you personally?
The AI has not personally affected us yet, but I will say that my close friend and associate, Matthew Quinn with Design Galleria, they had a presentation because they do kitchen designs.
Right.
And they had someone come in, and it is shocking what you can do if you tell them you want certain interiors, like any of our interiors, what they can put together. And it does look like there's just no question we will all be using it. I'm not sure how, but a lot of the people in the technology part of things, when you think of architectural details and the kitchen things and the things that are done again and again,
Makes sense.
that really is going to make a very big difference in our world. But I do not know yet how it's going to affect interiors, but you can literally tell them you want Suzanne Kasler interiors, and it's quite shocking what AI will pull up and put together. So we're all gonna have to find a way to incorporate that in, but we haven't done that yet.
A question here?
Oh, where's your favorite place to go antiquing?
Well, I still do love to go to Paris. I will say I just went to Paris in January. And you know, everyone will say, well, if you do go to the flea market there, it is so expensive. And when you get things home, it's so expensive. But it isn't just the antique shows. My favorite inspiration probably when I go to Europe are the fashion show places. If you go to Dior, if you go to Louis Vuitton, if you go to Chanel, and certainly Peter Marino is doing a lot of the designs of those spaces. But I will tell you, I went to Tiffany's in New York, and Peter Marino did that as well. There are so many ideas for all of us to bring into our own interiors with, like Laura was saying, the materials, the way they're mixing metals, the way they're doing, and I don't know if you've noticed, everything seems to have sparkle. There's a lot of,
Yes.
everything in Europe was like, everything is, it's that kind of Chanel suit that's got all the sparkles in it. It's kind of translated to our fabrics and design, and so it's interesting. I have found Paris still, but I will say I can go almost anywhere and be inspired, like all of you.
You can look
And
out-
what I say is when you see something, I said I only regret what I didn't buy. And even if it's kind of a random thing, I really am, and it's interesting how we are, I think the hardest thing now is finding things for our clients that make it be special to them, because there is so much everybody sees. So if you do find some things that are vintage or kind of special, when you go to Round Top or Scott's or any of the antique shows that are even in our country, then buy it, because that's the kind of thing you bring to the project. You know, that you really make it special. Or if you see an artisan, our clients are really wanting artisan pieces, and they will pay a lot of money for that. They want something that is unique. If you have not just an art wall piece, but a crafts piece, or maybe you'll say, we want to go ahead and make a special table for you. People are really, really loving that kind of detail, and it's all from our shopping and finding things wherever we travel.
Any questions? So,
Yeah,
one more question?
Curious if you're working on any projects in Naples.
well, you know, I was just at our friend's house that it's in my third book, the house I did in Naples.
Oh, okay.
It did get flooded, and I was happy to be there today, and it's back together.
Oh, good.
You know, it was in the moorings.
Okay.
I did a big house on the ocean here last year. We had the install date the week the hurricane hit. Yeah, that was that only a year or 2 years? I don't know. And it was interesting when we were hired to do the project, because it was really a big house on the ocean. They were like, we are moving in this date no matter what. And we had it on our, it was, and because I don't know if you all know that move-ins are moved all the time. It is the stressful part of our world right now. Every install I have is not on when it says, but this one was. And so I sent a couple of my team members up on like Thursday and Friday. It was such a big install. It's really big, house on the ocean, and they were going to spend. They got everything in the garage. Like, you know, the trucks. There was just so many things to unload, and then that's when the hurricane. I think it hit Tuesday or something, and so maybe Wednesday, and they were there for the weekend, and we were all coming Sunday night. You know, for the big week of install, like our team of 7 people, and we're like, maybe I don't know if maybe we should not come. And then we said, well, maybe we'll wait a day. And then by Monday, I said, you guys better get tickets. They got like the last plane tickets out on Tuesday. And then it really hit Naples, which we were not thinking it would. This house was not damaged, luckily, because it was met. It was up high, you know, because of the new codes. I bet that is when you see the difference it's going to make. And, but when we came back, because we had to come back in a few weeks. Like, you know, you drive down Port Royal, and I mean, the furniture on the street, I will never get over it. Like, and like really good furniture. Like it. I mean, I'm like, well, oh my God, like Rose Charlotte, Nancy Horzine, Hickory Chair. I mean, like everything's just rows of furniture. So I had been back to Naples, but I guess this trip back, I noticed it was really kind of looks like everybody's caught up.
Lots of care.
Yeah, but I'm doing a lot of projects in Palm Beach right now. We have a condo in Palm Beach. My parents had always gone there for 30 years. I did not open an office there like every designer in America, but because but we bought a place there a few years ago, my husband and I, and it's just interesting that we're doing a number of projects more in Palm Beach than right now.
Were you involved with the present Kips Bay Palm Beach show house?
No, I did the show house maybe 3 years ago. That's the one big room you'll see that I did it was Lars Bogander's house. I did Kips Bay about, again, I do not know when, maybe it was 5 years ago.
Maybe.
I don't know if I'm adding on the years or subtracting. I'm kind of not, I even said today, what is today? I've been traveling, I don't know. Today is only Wednesday. But Kips Bay is great, and I do say the show houses, they're a big commitment to all of us and a big expense. But the reward from it is, if you can, especially do a local one, you know, the connections you make with your peers, the community, the local magazines, and then certainly now Kips Bay is reaching out to a lot of designers, you know, everywhere that want to participate. And it's really special, and it's a big commitment, but I love doing it. But I did one Kips Bay in New York, and it's interesting, that is on the cover of my third book, I think, yeah, that room. And and Hickory Chair has always done a big partnership. A few years ago, we did the Flower magazine. We were on the cover, and Hickory Chair, again, it's always great if you can connect with someone, a showroom, and then with the pieces that, if they don't sell, which a lot of times they do not sell, just by the way, for some reason, even though they're fabulous, they'll bring them back to the showrooms. And we partnered last time with Flower Magazine to do a show house. So Kips Bay and all these show houses, they're a huge part of our world. It's expensive, but it's worth doing for all of you because you really, that's one way you really get a lot of publicity. And also have photographs for your website and your Instagram. And you know, we're all getting work from Instagram. I mean, people are, that's what they're really, it translates into real work. But it's a big commitment we have to make in marketing.
Do you have a certain goal as far as like you won't go out to a house for less than a certain amount of money? And I ask that because, you know, at this point in your life, you're nationally known and you've been publicized a lot. You speak, you travel. So I'm thinking you're probably a lot more selective on what you're doing, you know, because time is just
Right.
flying.
I think all of us have evolved, and what we do each year, or maybe, you know, every couple of years, look at what you want your firm to be. And what happened for me is I don't want to have a bigger office. I have 13 people. I have 6 designers, 3 teams, 2 each. I have a logistics person. I have 2 purchase order people, and I have a person in the bookkeeping. A lot of our work is what we call back of house because people are investing a lot of money. So I only have the 6 designers, but they need a lot of support. And so what we had to decide is that we only wanted to do a certain amount of jobs a year, and we don't want to be bigger. I stay involved in all the projects, and because of that, we started increasing our design fee, or the minimum that we would do for our jobs, what you have to buy. And when we have a talk with the client, and I really now, most of my projects are with an architect. It's kind of one thing that happened for me at this stage in my career. Because I am an interior architect, I can do a lot, but it was kind of taking away too much of my time. So I now have, one big thing I decided, I only want to work on houses where they have an architect. And if you do have one of those kind of clients, they're already making a big commitment in their design. We have gone back and done redecorating, and certainly when our clients have been existing, we will do work for them. And I'll do a mini contract for those people. But I think all of us will evolve, and each year you might decide how much work you want, and then if you up your fees, certain people will not hire you. That's all you need to do. They'll say, we're not, you know, we'll go to the next person.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Well, what a great group. Thank you guys for coming, and we all love design, and it's an exciting time in our design world, and challenging. And I think it's great having the support, really, when you all can get together and share. I think that's kind of been, for me, the best part of interior design. That's why everyone wants to be an interior designer today, too. There is that glamour side. They just don't forget the other side. Things don't come in. The jobs delayed. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And thank you guys for the showroom here.
I believe you have a book signing. So Suzanne has, she will be happy to do a book signing here today, and